Awesome. All right. Let's call to order the case of the estate of AJ Maloney and others law. We start with appearances from parties beginning with Cohen.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Mia Powell. Today I'm joined by my co-counsel, Mr. William Choi,
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Mr. Etinosa Okamo. No.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Your Honor, here today we're also joined by the estate of AJ Maloney, who we represent. At council table, we have Mr. Emerson Rajan.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon. Here's from the defense.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon. My name is Aaron Matthew. I'm here with Ms. Lauren Stoneman.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
I'm also here with Mr. Jimmy Fraley.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
And Ms. Sophie Glazer.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Together, we represent the defendant, Mr. Teddy Mothersbaugh.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon. All right. Are there any pre-trial?
Yes, Your Honor. The plaintiff would just like to make notice for you of pretrial order 4. It should be in your binder, but I can go ahead and summarize for you if you'd like.
Yes.
Your Honor, we'd just like to make notice that we've already ruled that any 702 objections to testimony of either experts in today's round has been waived, so long as their testimony has been disclosed in the reports that have been provided to both parties.
Okay. Is that your understanding as well?
That's our understanding.
Okay.
No, Your Honor, that's all from the court.
Okay. Anything from the defense?
That's it for us.
All right. Perfect. Then we can proceed right through to open evidence. Plaintiff, have you ready?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor. Opposing counsel, members of the jury, may it please the court. It's July 20th, 2024, and the Hellfire Club is electric. There's music playing in the background. The bass is so loud that you can hear it from a block down, and customers, they're all barging in. But there's one person who's not trying to get into the club. He's waiting for somebody to come out. You're going to learn that that person is the serpent, this city's vigilante. You're going to learn that when the serpent saw AJ Maloney entering into an alley at the side of the club, that he attacked him. That he jumped on AJ, that he punched AJ over and over and over again until his face was bloody and he fell into a coma. Members of the jury, today you're going to learn that this wasn't an accident. And that the person who committed this, that's the defendant in today's case, Teddy Mothersbaugh. Now today you're going to learn that Teddy doesn't really like the Hellfire Club. That he's had a vendetta against the club for years. And when AJ Maloney stood in between the defendant and the club owner, well, Teddy decided to get rid of it. That's when July 20th happened. And now, members of the jury, today we brought forth an action against the defense for battery. And when we did that, we walked into this courtroom with a burden to prove by a preponderance of the evidence, more likely than not, 3 different things. First and foremost, that the defendant had some type of action. And number 2, that the defendant had intent to harm. And number 3, that the action actually occurred against AJ Maloney. Today we'll walk you through those 3 things by showing you 2 different parts of our case. Why the defendant was there, and what the defendant did. So let's start from the first part, and why the defendant was there. And members of the jury, today you're going to hear from someone named Emerson Rajan, the owner of the Hellfire Club. He's going to tell you that Teddy Mothersbaugh went to him and told him that he thinks Emerson is a part of the reason why Teddy's parents are dead. You're going to hear that Emerson told him that that's not true, but the defendant, well, he couldn't believe it. You're going to hear that AJ Maloney tried to step in between the club owner and the defendant. The defendant told him that he would make sure AJ Maloney was out of commission. Which leads us to the second part of today's case, what he actually did. And now, members of the jury, today you're going to hear from a doctor specializing in blunt force trauma. He's going to tell you that AJ Maloney, well, his injuries were consistent with somebody who was attacked viciously. He's also going to tell you that the person who attacked AJ, well, their profile matches perfectly with the defendant. Now, members of the jury, today, when you review all the facts and the evidence, what you'll find is that the defendant is the servant. And that the defendant, he's the one who attacked AJ Maloney. Thank you.
Counsel, whenever you're ready.
Yes, Your Honor. They were gonna talk. So the boss took them out. It's July 20th of last year, in a dark alley. And a bouncer named AJ Maloney is attacked just feet from the nightclub she works in. She's alienated, beat, left lying on the floor in a coma. But unlike the plaintiff wants you to think, it wasn't because of a superhero. This wasn't vigilante justice. No, there's something about Mr. Malone. The plaintiff just doesn't want you to know. He was gonna talk. Talk to the police about the drug trafficking ring being run out of that nightclub, take the stand and testify against his boss. The plaintiff, Emerson Rajan. We're here today because he never got the chance. So you have to ask yourself, why? Why would someone beat the bouncer of a nightclub into a coma? Why would the owner of that club represent someone who was about to expose him? And why is he accusing someone else, my client, who was investigating? The answer is simple. They were going to talk, so the boss took them out. Today you'll learn about petty motorsport. Despite what the plaintiff wants you to think, no, he's not a superhero. He's an informant. He fights for justice by investigating and reporting criminal activity. And recently, his focus has been on a drug operation running out of the plaintiff's nightclub. He'll tell you he didn't put spandex on, but he looked around. And when he saw Mr. Maloney getting attacked, he stepped in to break up the fight. But the plaintiff's here today for a totally different reason. They're accusing Mr. Maloney of attacking Mr. Maloney. They're suing him for that. And they took on a burden when they did that. To prove to you by a preponderance of the evidence, that means more likely than not, that it was Mr. Maloney, not someone else, who attacked that bouncer. That he intentionally hurt her. As the defense today, we don't have a burden. We'll just show you why the plaintiff's story doesn't add up. For two reasons. They were going to talk when the boss took them out. Start with that first one. They were going to talk. We'll call a forensic scientist to the stand. She'll be able to reconstruct what that fight looked like. You'll learn there's just not enough evidence to say it was Mr. Mothersbaugh who attacked Mr. Maloney. We'll call Mr. Mothersbaugh, and you'll learn that second. It was the boss who took them out. You'll learn that after he started investigating the plaintiff's club, Mr. Rogers went on the news and started saying he was a vigilante superhero, going around threatening and attacking people. What happens? You'll learn he tried a different approach. Take out 2 informants with 1 stone. Send Mr. Maloney to a hospital bed and Mr. Mothersbaugh to the witness stand. You'll learn he started this lawsuit, chose the defendant, and now he's sitting here in court hoping you ignore all the reasons why this story just doesn't make sense. They were going to talk. So the boss took them out. So at the end of this trial, we'll ask you to find the defendant not liable. Thank you.
Plaintiff, if you're ready.
Yes, Your Honor, the plaintiff calls Dr. Meyer.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Can you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury? Sure. Hello, I'm Dr. Talbot Meyer. What do you do for a living, doctor? I'm the chief emergency medicine physician at Devnath Memorial Hospital. How'd you get into the world of medicine? Well, I always wanted to help people ever since I was a kid. I thought going into trauma surgery would be the right way to do that, so I took a position as a trauma surgeon. I loved the work, but the hours were tough, and it started to take a bit of a toll on the family. My wife and our 2 little ones at home, Lila and Cody. So a few years back, I decided I'd take a step back, transition over to general emergency medicine. Hours are a bit lighter, and I get to spend some more time. Do you have any formal medical education? Absolutely. I have a bachelor's in biological sciences from SUNY Buffalo that I got in 1998. And then I went on to get my MD from Johns Hopkins School of Medicine in 2002. As an emergency medical physician, have you ever treated a patient named AJ Maloney? I did. I was the on-call physician in the ER on July 20th of last year when Mr. Maloney was initially admitted. And I've been overseeing his continued treatment ever since. Where did your treatment of Mr. Maloney begin? Well, naturally, I wanted to physically examine him to understand his injuries and assess the best course of treatment. Can you tell us what that assessment showed? It showed that Mr. Maloney was in pretty poor shape. He had 6 separate bone fractures, severe internal bleeding at the abdomen, and was undergoing unconscious fits of spasm. How did that inform your treatment, doctor? Well, our first priority was to ensure that none of those injuries were preventing oxygen from getting in. So we started by using oxygen therapy to stabilize his condition, and then got to work on trying to set the broken bones. Were those treatments successful? No. We did everything we could to try and save Mr. Maloney's life, but approximately 2 hours after he arrived at the hospital, Gantt regained consciousness, and we declared him Cohen. Let's talk about how Mr. Maloney might have sustained those injuries. Do you remember when my office reached out to you to retain for today's case? I do. Can you share with the members of the jury what you were retained to do? Absolutely. I was retained to assess the injuries on Mr. Maloney's body and determine whether or not they were consistent with someone named Teddy Mothersbaugh being the individual who inflicted. Let's start by talking about how Mr. Maloney was injured. Sure. How did you go about assessing? Well, I looked at where his injuries were to see what that could tell me about what happened that night, and then work backwards to understand how those events unfolded. I understand this might sound a little bit confusing. I think it might be easier if I explain visually. I prepared a short demonstration, if that'd be all right. Your Honor, permission for the doctor to step down and perform this demonstration?
Yes, go ahead. And are there any objections?
Not at this time.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, doctor, where do we begin? Well, I'm actually gonna need your help with this, Mr. Cohen. Would you be willing to serve as our anatomical model? I promise I don't mind. All right, sir, where do we start? Well, let's start by looking at where exactly Mr. Maloney is. I found a series of bone fractures here in the forearm, and he also had a dislocated shoulder. What that means is that the upper part of the arm bone here had popped out of the side. Well, sir, what were you able to tell? Well, could you throw a punch for us, Mr. Cohen? Sure. How did that feel? Did it feel like? Is that important? No jiggling in the shoulder joint? Don't think so, no. Sir, that's what it's supposed to feel like. When you throw a punch, your body naturally moves and follows the arc of your fist, and the shoulder joint rotates with that motion. All right, so then what was the case with Mr. Malone? Well, if you put your arms up like this, like you're defending, I'm pushing my fist against your forearm here. How does that feel? Feels like you're putting pressure to it. How about up here at the shoulder? It's being pushed back a little bit. That's precisely. Now, this is just me pressing a little bit lightly on your shoulder. But imagine if I really wind up and take a swing, maybe I'm a foot taller, 50 pounds heavier too. You can see how as that fist comes into contact with Mr. Troy's forearm, that there might be a lot of force, potentially enough that it could fracture the bone here, and then push that arm back and out of the side. Well, doctor, was that the only significant piece of evidence you found on Mr. Malone's file? No, I actually found that there was severe bruising on the back of Mr. Malone's neck, running down his back. Well, what did that involve? If you could turn around, Mr. Cohen. Sure. You see, the bruising ran from here all the way down to this. Now, think about how that exactly has to occur. In order for someone to be facing Mr. Maloney and inflicting those injuries, it'd be pretty difficult, right? They'd have to come around here to a therapy. But if Mr. Maloney's back was straight, and then he was attacked from behind, well, now we can see how that pattern of injuries might reasonably occur. Thank you, doctor. You can retake your seat. So based on the evidence you collected with Mr. Maloney, what were you able to conclude about how Mr. Maloney was injured? Well, given all those injuries, I concluded that Mr. Maloney was the victim of a violent attack that. So let's talk about.
Objection, Your Honor, lack of foundation at this time, if I may be heard.
Yes.
We've heard testimony about the medical expertise of this doctor, but we haven't heard any testimony about how exactly that medical expertise led this doctor to conclude that Mr. Maloney was the victim of an attack.
Response, Your Honor? Your Honor, the witness already testified that he spent through years of medical training in school, both as a student and then as a medical practitioner in the ER as a doctor. He's also testified about how analyzing this sort of an incident is a standard method of evaluating how his patients are injured. Your Honor, the witness has certainly provided enough foundation for how he reached those conclusions using his expertise. It's particularly within the foundation that we've offered. It's admissible.
Response, Your Honor?
Yes.
We're objecting specifically to the word victim, which this doctor did. We haven't heard any foundation about how this doctor determined that Mr. Maloney was actually the victim of the attack. He could, for all we know, be an aggressor of that attack and a person was acting in self-defense. To use the word victim at this point, that lacks foundation.
Response, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, we've already offered testimony about the severities of injuries that Mr. Maloney has gone through as a patient in the ER. If opposing counsel wants to question about whether this doctor can analyze the specific perpetrators or the victims, that's a matter for cross. Right now, we've offered the necessary foundation. It's admissible.
So is your issue just with the framing that they were the victim of a particular attack? Don't have an issue with them saying that he was in some way attacked, because having an issue with that one word victim?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm gonna overrule the objection.
Yes, Your Honor.
Doctor, let's talk about who it was that might have attacked Mr. Maloney. You told us you assessed whether this defendant might have been responsible, where did you start with that investigation? Well, I looked at the specifics of Mr. Maloney's injuries, their severity, where they were sustained, to compile a profile for the person who inflicted them. I then used the press coverage for this case to understand Mr. Mothersbaugh's characteristics and look to see if they were consistent. So how do you go about creating that sort of profile? Like I said, we analyze the severity of the wound, their location, and their specific characteristics to understand what the person who inflicted them looked like.
Doctor, can you walk us through what the first step of your analysis was?
Absolutely. First, I looked at the angle of the bruising. Those bruises were at either even height or they had a slight downward tilt. That told me that the person who attacked Mr. Maloney was either the same height or even just a bit taller because they'd be slightly punching down.
Where did you look next?
Well, I looked at the depth and the extent of those injuries to see what kind of person would be capable of inflicting them. Based on the depth and extent, I determined that they must have been inflicted by someone with a similar physical build to Mr. Maloney.
Doctor, did you use any additional information in creating that profile?
I did. I looked at where those injuries were sustained. Mr. Maloney, he had a severe bruising pattern on the left side of his body. That was where most of the injuries were located. So I determined that the person who attacked him probably favored their left hand in that confrontation.
Doctor, can you explain to us how that physical profile you created compared to the defendant?
Well, a lot of it was very similar. Mr. Mothersbaugh possesses nearly the same height as Mr. Maloney, almost identical build. And from publicly available footage, I saw that he uses a left-handed swing, which would be precisely consistent with the attacker landing those wounds on the left side.
The doctor, based on everything you reviewed, what was your conclusion about whether this defendant might have been the person responsible for AJ Maloney's injury?
Well, given the numerous matches and the characteristics between the profile of Mr. Maloney's attacker and the profile of Mr. Mothersbaugh, I concluded that his physical attributes were consistent with him being the individual who inflicted those injuries.
Thank you, doctor. Nothing further, Doctor.
Yes, you're right. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Start by talking about your experience, that's all right.
Sure, I'm happy to get it.
Now, on direct examination, you told us that all this work you did about determining the identity of the person who attacked Mr. Maloney. Do I have that right?
That's right. That's one of the things that I was asked to assess.
Sir, you're an emergency room physician, aren't you?
That's right.
You're not a forensic pathologist.
No, sir. I deal with injury-related analysis, not forensic science.
You don't work for a medical examiner, do you?
No, sir.
You don't
I like
have,
my patients a lot.
you don't have any experience with criminal investigations.
No, sir.
Well, then I want to move on and talk about some things we both can probably agree on, all right?
Sure.
Now, you'd agree with me, it's important to treat all of your patients with the highest standards of care.
Absolutely.
It's important to not let your personal feelings about those patients get in the way of your treatment, isn't it?
Of course.
Sir, on the night of July 20th, you also treated a patient named Aoi Uchida, didn't you?
That's right. Ms. Uchida came in with a series of light bruises and a right shoulder, and I came in for that.
Right, sir, you didn't mention Ms. Uchida on your direct examination, did you?
No, sir. No one asked me about it, but I'm happy to talk about my treatment of Ms. Uchida.
Sir, you're aware, Ms. Uchida came into your emergency room unresponsive.
Sure.
She told you she was in the worst pain of her life.
That's right. That's what she expressed.
And despite her telling you that, you only treated her for 60 seconds.
That's right, sir. As you can imagine, when we have someone who's come in with severe head trauma, that was the main priority. But I conducted that physical examination with Ms. Uchida. I assessed that she didn't have any internal injuries and was really suffering from just some minor bruising. So I released her.
So that assessment, you spent 60 seconds on. So yes to my question?
Absolutely.
Because before Ms. Uchida, before you treated her, You knew she was pro-vigilante, didn't you?
I'd seen that she'd written some articles, my understanding is she's a reporter, with favorable coverage of vigilantes in the city.
And in your own words, that caused your opinion of her to sour, didn't it?
Sure, I disagree with her position on that issue.
So that's a yes to my question, that caused your opinion of her to sour?
That's correct.
And the night she came into the emergency room, you were in a rush, weren't you?
That's right. Mr. Maloney's condition was so severe that was taking up most of our time.
And even though Miss Uchida was unresponsive when she came into your emergency room, you only checked her for 60 seconds.
That's right, sir. Her injuries were minor, so I checked her for that amount of time, then left her under observation in case anything else.
So that's a yes to my question.
It is.
Well, then I want to talk about someone else who could be influencing your testimony today, if that's all right.
Okay.
So you're testifying for the plaintiff in this case?
That's correct. That's who we're taking.
You're aware Emerson Rajan, he's representing the plaintiff in this case?
That's my understanding, yes.
You can actually see Mr. Rajan sitting right over there, isn't that right?
Yes, that's Mr. Ron.
And Mr. Rajan, he's a pretty big donor to your hospital, isn't he?
That's right. He's given a lot of money to Deb McLemore.
In fact, you believe the only reason you currently have a job is because of his donations.
That's correct. COVID was tough on our industry, and thanks to Mr. Rogers' help, we were able to stay open.
That's a yes to my question. The only reason you believe your emergency room is currently open is because of Mr. Rajan's donation.
Good.
Mr. Rajan, he's been watching you testify all throughout this trial, hasn't he?
I think so. I couldn't tell you where his eyes were, but he's been here, I can tell you that.
Sir, you don't know. If you said something Mr. Rajan didn't like, that if you would keep donating to your hospital, you.
Objection, Your Honor, to speculation under Rule 607.
Yes, Your Honor. My question was framed as what this witness doesn't know. He doesn't know if Mr. Rajan would keep donating if he said something Mr. Rajan didn't like.
Your Honor, this line of questioning specifically goes to ask this witness to speculate on Mr. Rajan's behavior based on what this witness's testimony is going to be. That's patent definitionally speculation under Rule 602.
Not asking for him to make a definitive conclusion, I'm asking him about the possibility, and he's more than welcome to testify to the possibility of that happening.
Could you remind me what the question was?
Yes, Your Honor, the question was, you don't know that if you said something Mr. Rajan didn't like, if you would keep donating to your hospital.
I think the question is so specific that I feel like it's running very close to area of speculation. So, I would question the witness about their lack of knowledge of how something like acts based on certain things they do, but I don't want you getting that.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objection? I don't think there is any evidence to do it.
Yes, Your Honor.
Sir, you don't know how Mr. Rajan would react if you said something that told this court that Mr. Mothersbaugh was not the attacker, right?
No, sir. You'd have to ask Mr. Rogers about it.
Right, you don't know if he would keep donating to the hospital, do you?
No, I have no idea what influences his donation.
Right, you don't know if he would keep donating to the hospital to keep your emergency room open.
No, sir, I don't.
Then I want to talk about something else that might be influencing your treatment. Okay. Now, earlier you told us you believe it's important not to let personal feelings get in the way of medical treatment. You said earlier.
That's right. Take an oath as doctor to treat all patients.
Sir, you've actually taken another oath, haven't you?
Which one would that be?
Sure, you've previously taken an oath never to help a vigilante. Do I have that right?
Sure, I would never want to contribute to that kind of work. I've seen a lot of serious injuries inflicted by people acting as vigilantes. I would never want to contribute to that kind of.
So that's a yes to my question. You have previously taken an oath never to help a vigilante.
That's right.
Because like you told us, you believe that vigilantes, they're not good people, right?
No, I've seen a number of incredibly serious cases treating trauma victims caused by vigilantes. I don't think that's an appropriate line of work.
You actually want a vigilante to be responsible for this case, don't you?
It's my understanding that Mr. Mothersbaugh was acting as a vigilante.
So you want a vigilante to be responsible for this case, don't you?
I guess that's what the evidence shows.
Because you believe vigilantes, they're monsters.
That's true.
You hate them.
Absolutely.
you would do whatever you could to knock a vigilante down a peg.
Absolutely, sir. If it would save more people, I would happily knock a vigilante down a peg if that's how you want.
You're aware Mr. Mothersbaugh is accused of being a vigilante.
But that's my understanding.
And today, well, this is your opportunity to knock Mr. Mothersbaugh down a peg, isn't it?
I guess, sir, I'm just presenting what the science.
That's a yes to my question. This trial is your opportunity to knock Mr. Mothersbaugh down a peg.
If you want to put it that way, sure.
No further questions.
Thank you, counsel. Concerning redirect examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Dr. Opposing counsel asked you some questions about Mr. Rajan. Does Mr. Rajan's characteristics appear to be consistent with the attacker?
Objection, Your Honor, at this time. Might be heard.
Well, what are the grounds for this?
Yes, Your Honor, in this jurisdiction, we have very strict disclosure requirements for expert reports. In particular, all conclusions an expert makes on direct or redirect examination must be previously contained within the report. Nowhere in this doctor's report does it mention Mr. Rajan. As such, it's an inadmissible expert conclusion at this point.
Response, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, the expert witness is an expert in analyzing different physical characteristics. This question simply goes to ask whether or not this doctor reviewed Mr. Rajan's physical characteristics, and if he did, whether that would be consistent. Your Honor, that's certainly within the expert report that this witness already provided to the court and both parties. It's certainly within his expertise and testimony.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah,
In
sure.
their reports, do they say that somebody, do they say that the defendant's physical characteristics are consistent with that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do they say that Mr. Raja's physical characteristics are inconsistent with the attack? Or
No,
consistent? Do they opine on it at all?
may I ask to clarify, Your Honor?
I mean, do they come to any conclusion about whether or not they actually are? His characteristics are consistent with the attack?
There's no specific mention about Mr. Rajan's characteristics that were analyzed. This question, if I may properly, Your Honor.
Please do.
This expert will now testify that he does not know if Mr. Rajan's physical characteristics would be consistent with the potential aggressor because of those results.
How did you phrase the question again?
I asked this witness if he knows Mr. Rajan's characteristics are consistent with the physical characteristics of a potential aggressor.
Okay, your objection is well taken. I think based on your offer of proof and that you're assuming this witness is going to say that they're not actually sure, they're not going to make any type of conclusion, I'm gonna overrule the objection for now. But if you do feel like their testimony delved into the range of something that is an actual expert conclusion, not contained in the four corners of the report, then feel free to raise that objection and we can read it.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you know if it's consistent?
Not specifically, I didn't analyze Mr. Rajan's specific characteristics, but if he possessed a different build, a different height, and wasn't left-handed, then that wouldn't match the profile of the person that I found attacked Mr. Rajan.
Thank you, doctor. I have nothing further, doctor.
Based on that, no recross, Your Honor.
Okay, may the witness be excused?
Yes, maybe. It's my understanding that the defense was.
Yes, Your Honor, at this time, the defense calls investigator Gauntlet to stand.
And whenever you're ready.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Afternoon.
Could you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
Sure. My name is Leighton Will,
Where are you from?
Cincinnati. I grew up there, I spent a lot of time there, and then after school I headed to here, Tower City in Vermont.
And what do you currently do for work?
I'm a forensic scientist.
What do you study? What education do you have?
I started out at Tufts University. I got my undergrad in chemistry and then went down to the University of Florida. I got a master's in forensic science.
And what experience do you have with forensic science?
Right, well, right out of school, I headed to the Tower City PD and I started work there as a CSI. And after that, I went to my current firm, an independent consulting firm. We do similar work, consulting cases like this.
All right, ma'am. What brings you to court today?
I was asked to investigate a scene of an incident. It occurred about a year ago with two individuals by the names of AJ Maloney and the identity of the serpent. Specifically, I was asked to look whether the serpent was acting in a defensive manner.
Well, before we get to that evaluation, I just want to be upfront with the jury.
Sure.
Do you know any of the parties in this case?
I do. I knew a couple of people, the serpent and Teddy Mother Bride. I know both of them.
Did your relationship with either of those people impact your testimony today?
No. My job is to look at the evidence and to present my conclusions. Facts are the facts. They don't change in the circumstances for better or for worse.
Well, then I want to walk through the work you did in this case.
So
Did you use a particular procedure, a method to come to your conclusions?
I did. I used the CIC method. It stands for collection, investigation, and conclusion. It's not a popular acronym, but it gets the job done. Standard in the field.
Could you explain to us how that CIC method works?
I could. It's a little bit easier to show you what it is.
Sure, what do you need?
Water bottle, is it really there?
Yes, it is.
Can I have it?
Of course, I'll bring it right up.
Awesome. So we start off with collection. When we get to a crime scene or anything that's been reported to us, we're looking for forensic evidence, whether that's the ground or objects themselves. We look at them and see what we can find. And Mr. Curley, I noticed that you're not wearing gloves, so you might have left some fingerprints or even skin cell DNA on this water bottle.
So then after you collect that forensic evidence, what's the next step? What do you do with it?
Right, so we want to look and see if that evidence matches to anyone. You can see this dent right here on the water bottle can. We might look at that and try and figure out how did that dent get there. If I look at it and test it, I might be able to match it to you, Mr. Fraley, or somebody else.
So then after you run those tests, how do you draw conclusions? What do you conclude?
Right, so we look at the tests, we look at what the evidence is actually giving us, and if I were to do those tests, I might find in this dent maybe some concrete samples. That might tell me that the water bottle was just dropped from the ground, but if I were to find blood evidence, perhaps it might tell me that this water bottle was used in fight.
Well then, let's hope you don't find any blood now. I can pick that water bottle back.
Sure.
Well, then I want to move on to your work in this. So what evidence did you collect as part of this investigation?
Well, myself and the police department did a joint investigation of the initial scene. We did a collection, we looked at the evidence down there, as well as any genetic information found on Mr. Maloney or the weapon itself used in the attack.
Well then, how did you conduct your investigation into those pieces of evidence?
We did the standard array of tests that we're looking for. We looked at anything we had.
What tests did you run specifically? What type of evidence did you find?
Right, well, in this case, we didn't find all the evidence that we were looking for. We didn't find any fingerprints or saliva. We did find a partial hair strand, and we were able to find blood evidence as well.
What did you learn from that blood evidence?
From the blood evidence, we could actually test the sample, and we were able to identify that the blood sample matched the blood of Mr. A.J. Maloney. And from that, then we were able to look at the scene itself, specifically the blood spatter, to see what had happened. From that, I concluded that Mr. Maloney was struck with a weapon, likely when he was moving. He was part of the fight.
Well, I want to better understand that conclusion.
Sure.
How exactly could you determine that A.J. Maloney was moving during that fight?
What we used to this, you like physics?
I can't say a particular field.
Right, me neither. That's why I studied chemistry, but it's actually pretty simple. We're really just looking at the shape of the blood droplets that we find. So if you find a circular blood drop, that just means that blood has fallen vertically. It lands in a perfect circle. You might have even seen this yourself if you've ever gotten cut. It generally has a circular shape. But if someone was moving while they were hit, those blood droplets, they're going to get a little bit more of character to them. Maybe they're stretched out, oblong, elongated, that kind of thing.
So what did you observe about the blood droplets you found at the scene?
I saw the second time, the elongated time.
So what did that tell you about Mr. Maloney in this case?
To me, that indicated that Mr. Maloney was part of this altercation, that they were struck while they were moving. And that might give reason for why someone would to stop the fight.
All right then. Well, outside the character of those blood droplets, did you learn anything else from the blood evidence in this case?
Right, I was able to look at the actual
patterning of the blood at the scene, not the droplets, but the larger pattern, that's what I looked at.
Why'd you look at that? What'd you learn from that blood pattern?
Well, when we got to the scene, there was actually a relatively unique layout of the blood. There was blood in this area and then a large bloodless gap and then blood again. And when we see that, that means that there was an object on the ground when the blood was first shed. A little bit like when it's raining, and the car's in the driveway, you move it and then that spot is dry.
Were you able to determine what caused that dry spot on the ground?
Sure. By looking at photographs and available evidence of Mr. Ali Uchida, I could see that the proportions of the gap that I saw on the ground matched his proportions. To me, that means that Mr. Uchida was likely on the ground when Mr. Maloney's blood was shed and then he was able to get up and then there was an empty spot left behind.
So what does that tell you about the sequence of events in this case?
Right. That indicates that when Mr. Maloney got in the fight, Mr. Uchida was already on the ground, that the altercation had already started.
All right. I want to move on from blood evidence and talk about your investigation as a whole.
Sure.
Was there any evidence you weren't able to test in this case?
There was. We found a good amount of evidence, but unfortunately, when collection actually took place, there were skin cells that were recovered from the scene. And to be completely honest with you, I misplaced those samples, so they weren't able to be tested. That was my mistake. I took responsibility for that.
Would those collection errors have changed your conclusion about the primary aggressor in this case?
No, sir, not what the primary aggressor was actually doing. When we have skin cells from underneath fingernails, that might indicate who was at the scene, but not what they were doing, why they were there. It wouldn't tell us that they were actually the aggressor.
So what were you able to conclude about Teddy Mothersball's role in this attack?
From everything that I saw, I was able to conclude that the serpent was not the primary aggressor.
Thank you.
Sure.
No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Yeah, Your Honor.
Maybe you're right.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. Let's start by talking about why you're here.
Alright.
Because on direct examination, you told the jury that you know the defendant.
Yes, I do. I didn't tell you.
Right, you and the defendant, the two of you go way back.
Sure. When I first came to Tower City, Teddy and I became friends.
Right, you used to play softball together.
Right, thank you.
You consider the defendant to be a pretty good friend of yours.
I do.
Even gave him a 50% discount on your usual rate for retaining him in today's case.
That's right. You asked me to testify. I was happy to do.
Talk about how that relationship might have influenced your testimony. Because you told us about looking at the directionality of droplets to analyze for potential victims, right?
That's right. It gives us information about what was going on in the fight. So in the stationary, everything, that sort of thing.
Right, you told us that based on how elongated those droplets are, we might be able to understand whether somebody was moving.
Exactly.
But man, you'd agree with me that your analysis didn't really even tell us whether someone was standing still or if they were moving.
Sure, that's the two big umbrellas. Depending on the actual stage of the blood droplets themselves, they might tell you a little bit more information, but those are the two main categories we look at.
Right, ma'am, in this case, all you were able to know was whether somebody was moving. Sure.
Exactly.
Your test can't tell us why somebody might have been moving. Sure.
Right. Without actually being at the scene or having video surveillance, these tests just narrow down whether they were still or moving, what their general role in the altercation was.
Ma'am, based on the evidence that you had and the analysis that you conducted, you certainly can't tell us if AJ Maloney was moving to protect himself. Right?
No, I can believe it.
Can't tell us if he was moving to make an attack or go away. Right?
You're right, sir. I can.
So ma'am, if you can't tell us that from your blood spatter analysis, let's talk about the other test you conducted, looking at the gaps.
Sure.
Because you told us that the gap you found on the ground might be indicative that someone named Ali Uchida back there.
Right, based on that proportionality.
And if you'd agree with me, but where Agent Maloney was attacked, that heavy foot traffic.
It's true, the alleyway in which the fight transpired, there was a lot of foot traffic, it was a heavily visited area.
So any person with similar physical proportions to Miss Uchida could have been standing right there.
It's possible, based on what I looked at, the proportions match, but it could have been someone.
And you can't tell us it's any more likely it was Ali Uchida versus another person who might have had similar proportions. Sure.
Right, just that the proportions match.
Well, now, even if that person was Ali Uchida, well, it's true that you reviewed Miss Uchida's intake form when she went to the ER, right?
That's right,
You understand that Miss Uchida had no broken bones,
right, that's what I read,
no concussions,
yes, and so,
no internal bleeding.
that's right.
Then I'd like to move on and talk about what might have made you reach those conclusions in today's case.
Right.
Because you told us in direct examination that you actually lost some samples in your investigation, is that right?
Yes, sir, the skin cells that we recovered at the scene, I had misplaced those, we weren't able to test them.
Ma'am, you told us that losing those skin cells, well, that doesn't change your conclusion in today's case. I wrote that down. Right.
Yes, you're right, sir, specifically about the role of the serpent.
Ma'am, it's your testimony that the skin cell results, if they were tested, would have impacted your conclusions in today's case.
Right, those skin cells would have given us information about the identity of who was there. That wasn't a conclusion that conclusion was given. It was just about the role of what they were doing. Those skin cells, having them, they don't tell you what someone's doing.
Ma'am, so let me make this clear for the members of the jury. It's a yes or a no. Would those skin cell results have provided a positive test result about the identity of the attacker?
Yes, that's right. They would have told us about the identity, but not what that person was doing at the fight. That makes sense.
Ma'am, quite frankly, it doesn't, because the identity of the attacker is
Objection,
exactly.
Your Honor, attorney testifying.
Ma'am, what you were exactly retained to analyze in today's case was to see who those blood samples might belong to, right?
Right, the variety of DNA evidence at this.
And you'd agree with me that having those results from those skin cells that you retrieved would have rendered positive identifications about who that attacker might have been.
It's possible. It could have given us the identity of who was there. You're right.
You're the one who lost.
That's right. I did.
Ma'am, there were also some fresh blood samples apart from what you analyzed that were available to you when you were first at the scene of the crime. True.
That's right. There was.
You also lost those.
No, sir. I don't know if it was me personally. Like I said, there was a joint collection effort between myself and the police department. Those samples were lost. We don't have them, but I don't know that it was my mistake. I can't say that.
So you're telling us it could have been you or your team, right?
Right. There was an error at some point in collection, which is also unfortunate.
So that's a yes to my question. It's you or your team that lost the blood sample.
Right. The collection.
Man, let's talk about why these things might keep
Okay.
happening. Because you owe the serpent a lot.
I'm not sure I would characterize that as it.
Well, you actually contacted the you were actually contacted by the serpent just a few days after being retained by the defendant. True.
Right. I was.
The serpent gave you a big tip.
Right. The serpent and I have a professional relationship. In the past, we've been able to exchange information with each other.
The serpent helped you solve your biggest case in your career.
That's right. Get information.
I think the serpent is more effective than our city's law enforcement, right?
It's true. The serpent has been successful in stopping crime in house.
I think the serpent's a good person.
From what I know of them, I would say that.
You hope that the serpent is able to keep doing what he did.
I mean, if the serpent is found to not have committed any wrongdoing, then sure, they've done good work. It would be great if that can continue.
So that's yes to my question. You hope the serpent would keep doing what he did.
Right. If there was no wrongdoing found in this case.
All right, thank you.
Certainly.
No further questions.
Any redirect finish?
No regret at this time, Your Honor. We have to witness this.
Yes, you may. And when concerns.
Yeah, there'll be a 15-minute break. Just fill in your ballots now, and then we'll move on to the Thanks. Sorry.
You both time judge today or?
Yeah, we both do it in the same room. Oh, very. Is this referred to?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So, two.
Okay. It's good, it's a. His parents are from India, she was born here, and she's sort of struggling with what is her function, like one of the having a baby. One of her friends, she's trying to figure out what. And then this is weird thing, that there's someone who she and her husband went to live in India for a while, and then she came back and he's still there. And someone there was in prison, so keep getting text messages, and congratulations on. You know. You did up in time. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Since you're getting text, congratulations on the what? Oh, yeah, well, it's with a lot of the, it's the stuff, your sister is from, you know what I mean? Yeah. I read a lot. Yeah. Really? I went to Philly and, Evra and, Redis. I gotta, I'm gonna go back, yeah, I wanna go back to go to, the east. Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay. There's another one called, we come back called Border Life, also very new, and it's like happening right now. It's like India, young Indian, he's running it, comes here, goes to Scouts. And then, the Modi gets elected, he's like, oh, this is what I want. Oh, okay.
I'm like, I'm so curious now. Sorry, I'll be right back.
It's happening, it's like.
Ooh.
One. Yeah. Suzanne.
Were you guys all able to get your scores in? No problems? Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Looks like the defense is back and ready, Your Honor.
As is the plaintiff, Your Honor.
Okay, perfect, so it's the plaintiff's.
Yes, Your Honor, the plaintiff at this time calls Emerson Rajan to the stand.
Whenever you're ready. Yes, Your Honor.
Merci. Good afternoon, sir. If you mind introducing yourself to the members of the jury?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Emerson Rajan.
Do you for a living, sir?
I'm the owner of my family business, Rajan Incorporated. And I'm also the owner of the Hellfire Club here in Morocco.
And Mr. Rajan, what's the Hellfire?
As I'm sure you've heard today, the Hellfire Club, it's a nightclub here in the city. It's one of the biggest ones.
How do you get about that work?
It was more of a passion project for me. Baba growing up had a passion for solitude, make different trips and then hand out to people who he defied for parties and events. So when he passed away, this kind of seemed like the best thing to kind of remember. The Hellfire was his favorite thing that we've ever done.
So when did you start the Hellfire Club?
I acquired the club back in 2021, during COVID. There was another club that was shutting down, so I ended up buying it instead, and then I built up the whole thing again, fresh from scratch.
And Mr. Rajan, can you tell us why you're here today?
Of course. I'm here today because last year on the 20th of July, one of my employees, AJ Maloney, was nearly killed by the vigilante. I'm here to represent her.
And Mr. Rajan, I want to start from the very beginning. Can you tell the members of the jury who AJ is?
Of course, AJ is a good kid, He moved with his parents from the UK back when he was little. Unfortunately, shortly after moving, his parents passed away, so dropped out of school, started looking for work. That's actually how I first came across him. When the club was starting up, he applied for a couple of jobs, so I ended up hiring him as
And how was AJ as an employee?
he was great, he was a hard worker, he came in early, stayed till late, was willing to help out the family.
And Mr. Emerson, today we heard that AJ was talking to the police. Did you know that?
I did. I found out that she was talking to the police, but they were saying that that's because I attacked them. I found out when I attacked them, yeah, but that's just not true. After I found that out, I tried to set up a meeting with them to try and figure out everything, but before I could do that, that's when the vigilante attacked.
Mr. Rajan, you know who the vigilante is?
I do. The vigilante is a man named Teddy Mother.
Mr. Rajan, how do you know that Teddy Mothersbaugh is the vigilante?
One of my employees saw him in person changing into his outfit in an alley.
Let's take a step back. Can you tell us who Teddy Mothersbaugh is?
Sure, Teddy Mothersbaugh is a big businessman here in Morocco. He owns his own family company, the Mother.
Sir, do you know if Teddy Mothersbaugh is from?
No, this is the first time I've heard of this at all. Teddy is just a big businessman as far as I've ever known.
Have you ever interacted with Teddy before?
I have twice. Once in a meeting for business, and the other time when he was snooping around the Hellfire.
Did you get along?
No, quite the opposite, actually. It seemed like whenever I would meet with him, he always just had it out for me.
Sir, let's take those meetings one by one, starting with the business. Can you tell us about your interaction with Petty Mother's Law at the business meeting?
Sure, so Rajan Incorporated has been trying to merge with the Mothers Corporation for years now. We finally thought that it was going to happen, but in the last minute, Teddy came in and he just vetoed the whole problem.
You know why?
Yes. I went up to him after and asked him why he vetoed it. That's when he told me that he knew that my family was responsible for his parents' death. Said that as long as he was alive, he would never allow that merger to take place.
Mr. Robbins, how do you respond?
I told him I was confused, that I had no idea what was happening, what he meant, but he just told me to say the excuse.
And so after that conversation with Teddy, did anything start to change with your business?
It did. After that conversation, he started publishing articles with his girlfriend, trying to say that the Hellfire Club was a place where drugs were being stored, and that I was kind of drug king pushing things in the city.
Mr. Robbins, is that true?
No, not at all. That's not true.
So I want to move to the second time you met with Petty Mother's Law. What happened when you ran into him at the club?
We were hosting a private event earlier last May when I noticed that Teddy was sneaking around. He was taking pictures, asking the employees questions. The whole thing was just a little weird.
What did you do?
Well, just like with any uninvited guest, I tried to kick him out. Yeah, AJ was the bouncer working at the bank, so I called him over and we both went up to Teddy. I told him that it was a private event, that I knew he wasn't invited, and I asked him to leave.
I'll tell you.
He got angry. He started walking towards me aggressively, but then AJ stepped in between us. But that only made him more upset. He pointed to AJ's face and said that that was the first and last mistake he would ever make, and then he looked at me. And he said that next time AJ wouldn't be there to save me, that he was going to make sure of it, that he was going to find a way to ruin me, regardless of whether or not I realized it was him.
Mr. Robbins, I want to move to the night, July 20th. How it started?
I thought it was going to be a normal night, just a regular Friday, but somewhere in the middle, I heard screaming coming from the alley. So I went out back to check it out, and I just saw AJ. He was on the floor in a puddle of blood. He had cuts and scratches on his face. He didn't look good.
Sir, today, the defense is saying that you're the one who attacked him. Mr. Robbins, is that true?
No, and not at all. AJ was one of the nicest people and best employees I ever had. I had no reason to attack him.
Why should we believe you, sir?
And you don't have to believe me, you can believe the doctor, Dr. Meyer. He told me that the profile that he found of the attacker of AJ, it matched Teddy perfectly. I'm not as tall as Teddy, I'm not as big as Teddy, and I'm right-handed. I'm not someone who would attack my own employee. It doesn't make sense.
And Mr. Rajan, what happened to AJ after he was attacked by the victim?
The doctors, they tried everything, but AJ ended up slipping into a coma. Judging by the time, it's been 364 days, 16 hours, and 23 minutes since he went into a coma, and he still hasn't woken up.
Thank you, Mr. Rajan. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
No.
May I proceed?
Whenever you're ready.
I had no reason to attack AJ. That's what you just told us.
Right.
Let's talk about whether that's true. So you certainly have a lot to gain from attacking Mr. Malone, right?
No,
It's your testimony you didn't gain from attacking him?
what do you mean by gain?
So your words, you gained from his attack.
In terms of stories that were being pushed by Teddy and AJ being stalked, sure, yeah,
Yes, you gained from his attack.
sure,
Let's talk about it, because last year you were in trouble, right?
yes,
The club you own was the center of a criminal narcotics investigation.
no, there was never an investigation into my club.
There was no operation, sir, that's what you're saying?
Operation, I said there's no investigation, police never investigated my club ever for drugs.
I'm approaching the witness with exhibit 6, it's pre-admitted. So you recognize that article, right?
I do,
If you take a look at the bottom, it says there was a criminal sting operation that was centered around your club.
where does it say that?
Bottom of the article, I can pull it up if you want.
Sure,
If you look at the bottom, it says, this announcement comes out after insider sources revealed the police department abruptly canceled a long-planned sting operation. The operation was targeting alleged drug activity at Rogers Factory.
that's right, they canceled it, there's never been an investigation into my club.
So right here, it says the operation was targeting drug activity at your club, that's what it says.
That's what it said, but then they canceled it. There's never been any evidence of drugs or investigations into my club.
So the cops found a kilo of drugs hidden in your office, right?
That was when I first brought the club, yes.
We'll talk about how that investigation got stopped, but sir, it's true. You found your personal bodyguard had flipped to be the witness against you, right?
And not a witness, no. All that I was told was that AJ was in talks with the police and potentially saying something to help with the club investigation, but everything was canceled, there's never been an investigation in my club.
Sir, you heard your bodyguard is going to testify that you were a drug kingpin, yes or no?
Yes, that was the plan, they were going to work with the police.
Work with the police to testify against your club.
Potentially, yes.
You heard that, you were furious.
At first, yes, of course,
But like you told us, none of that actually ended up happening, right?
it did. No, they canceled the investigation, club never got investigated, never any drugs in the club.
Right, Mr. Maloney, he never took the stand.
No,
He never took the stand because he was beaten into a coma 364 days ago, right?
that's right, by Teddy Wonderful,
He never got to talk against you.
yes,
That sting operation, it was banned.
it was canceled.
You're telling us you had nothing to do with that. Let's talk about whether your story makes sense. Because you're saying you were inside the club during the attack, right?
At first, yes, I was.
You're saying that you were surrounded by other people.
No, I never said that, I was in my office.
During the attack, you said that you were breaking up a fight inside your bar.
I didn't say that, no.
So your testimony during the attack, you weren't breaking up a fight inside your bar?
No, I was, but I didn't say that. I was just in my office, I started walking outside, and that's when I got into the alley.
Permission to approach the witness with their affidavit? Yeah, she's a copy. I can pull it up for you over here as well. It's unfortunate. So this is your deposition, right?
Yes,
Your signature at the back,
it is,
sort of answer all the questions truthfully.
of course.
I want you to turn to line 153. I'm going to read out loud and read silent. Question. What exactly were you doing inside the club during AJ's attack? Answer. I was dealing with a brawl at the bar. One of our regulars got into it with an undercover cop. Not exactly something I could do. I read that correctly?
Yes, you did, that was after, I was at the office.
During AJ's attack, that was the question.
Yes, I was in the office, I heard singing in the alley, I started making my way into the alley, came across the bar fight, and then went outside, that's what I said.
So I can take that and close that up, actually, you don't need it. So you can't tell us a single person will take the stand and say you were actually inside your office, running through the bar while that attack was happening.
I'm not sure, we have to ask the people at the bar that one, maybe someone saw.
Not a single other employee who you know might have seen.
Not that I know right now, no.
Can't show us a single clip of security footage with you inside.
If security footage exists in that year, then of course we could bring it out and have it shown.
Wait a minute, you don't even know if the security footage exists inside your bar?
I'm not sure if it's still there. Security footage is updated every 6 to 1 year, 6 months to 1 year, depending on what's happening. You have to go back and check, maybe it's still there, you would see it. If not, we're gonna override it. That's how the systems work.
Let me get this straight. You're bringing a lawsuit about something that happened 364 days ago. And you didn't think to check whether you had security footage from that night?
Inside the bar covering me, and no. And this is about AJ being attacked in the alley.
Sir, let's talk about who you're blaming instead. Because you have a vendetta against Mr. Mothersbaugh, right?
So, yes, the stuff that he's been publishing about me, about drugs in the club, that's not true. I don't like Mr. Mothersbaugh.
Sir, exactly. After he was publishing information about you, you don't like it.
Information that's not true, yes,
You believe he was investigating your club, right?
he was.
You believe he was costing you money.
He was, the information that he was publishing was costing a sponsor, it was causing people to question the health and safety of the club. It was not true, but it was costing us money.
So you told people he was going around threatening your employees, right?
He was,
You told people he was threatening you.
he was.
Let's talk about whether any of that's true. Because sir, you've never actually seen Mr. Mothersbaugh go around dressed up, attacking people.
Not me, I've never seen him dressed up as a vigilante specifically.
That's right. What you told us is your employee told you they saw him changing into a costume behind your club.
That's right,
You can't tell us what day that was.
not the specific date, no, it must have been after the attack.
Can't tell us what time it was.
Stop.
Yes. I didn't check the specific time when they told me.
Nothing further.
Any direct data?
No, Your Honor, we stop the witness excuse.
You have the other ones to stop.
If there's no, no redirect, then we'll call Mr. Teddy Mothersbaugh. May I proceed?
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
Hi there. My name is Teddy Mothersbaugh. Most people call me Ted.
Sir, we've heard a lot of accusations today, and I want to give you a chance to respond to them.
Sure.
Did you attack AJ Malone?
No. Absolutely not.
Were you at the club that night?
I was. Yeah, I was there to break up a fight. Not stop one.
Sir, are you the serpent?
I am. That's me.
Does that mean you roam the streets in a costume fighting crime?
No. No.
What do you mean when you say that you're the serpent?
It's a pen name. I'm an informant. I give tips to the Morado Times, to the dailies, and other local outlets. I report on crimes in the area.
Let's talk about how you got wrapped up with Mr. Rajan in this club.
Sure.
Were you investigating the club?
I was. Yeah, that's right.
Why?
Right a year ago, a buddy of mine started going to that club more and more. Started to see him less and less. So when I saw him, he was distant, frantic, nervous. About a year ago, he overdosed. I found him on his bathroom floor with a bag of white powder.
Why'd that lead you to look into the club?
Every time he'd go to that club, I'd see him come back with the bag just like that one. But I wasn't investigating at the time, so I went to the police.
Did anything happen when you went to the police?
No. They just told me to fill out some form. I get a call, but it's been about a year. No call.
What'd you do?
Did the only thing I could. I gave my first tip, but I wasn't ready to attach my name to it yet, so I used an alias.
Why call yourself the Circle?
Just the name of some superhero comic strip I liked growing up.
Sir, did you keep investigating that club?
Yeah, I did. Up until the night of July 20th. Every time I heard about a drop of one of those white bags, I would tell the Times, Murad, like to think I was fighting crime in my own way.
Let's talk about that night. Were you at the club on the 20th?
I was, yeah.
Why?
I was investigating, just keeping an eye out for those white baggies.
You mentioned a fight earlier. When'd you see that fight?
It's around 9 o'clock.
What'd you see?
Well, I heard it before I saw it. I rounded the corner and I saw someone and they were just hit one of the bouncers over and over again with this metal object. And there was someone laying on the ground. There were punches and kicks and they were flying in all directions. I just got in the middle of them and I tried to break them off of each other.
Did you break it up?
Yeah. But I mean, I had to physically push them off of each other. The guy who was attacking me, I mean, he just ran off, but that bouncer, he collapsed, he fell to the ground.
Did you see where that other attacker ran?
I mean, it was weird. I thought he was just gonna start running, but he ran right back into the club.
What'd you do next?
I started talking to that bouncer. He was unconscious. I was trying to wake him up. I was tapping his face, like, hello, hello, but he wasn't moving. I mean, I just pushed him and he wasn't moving. So I started screaming. I was looking for help. When no one came, I ran off to look for some, but by the time I got back, the ambulances, they were already there.
Sir, could you tell us what that bouncer looked like when he was on the ground?
He was unconscious. Covered in blood. That metal object, it was just laying right next to him. He had one of those white baggies that was sticking out of his pocket. Found out later his name was AJ Malone.
So would you recognize one of those white baggies if I showed it to you?
I would. Yeah.
What you witness would exhibit? Seven. It's not enough. Sir, is this one of those bags?
Yes, sir.
Does it look like it's been changed since you last saw it?
No.
Plaintiff, defense offers exhibit 7.
The objection.
Without objection, Your Honor.
Sir, does this look like one of those white bags that you were telling us about earlier?
Yes, sir. But with the same baggies I've been seeing coming in and out of that club for over a year.
So you said after the attack you learned more about Mr. Malone. What'd you learn?
Found out he was an informant too. They knew about the drug operation. He was trying to take it down.
Do you know where Mr. Maloney is now?
He's been in a coma for over a year.
You just said two people knew about that drug scheme. One's in the hospital. Let's talk about what happened to you. Why are you in court today?
Being sued by Emerson Rajan. I found out that he accused me of attacking AJ.
Sir, do you know Mr. Rajan?
I do, yeah. He's the owner of one of the big businesses in town, and I think it's called Rajan Corp. He owns that nightclub too. He's been telling people that I've been threatening people, that I've been threatening him, and it's not true.
Sir, are the police accusing you of attacking Mr. Maloney?
No. Just Mr. Rajan.
Thank you, sir. Nothing further.
Cross-examination. Let's see.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mothersbaugh.
Good afternoon.
I want to start by talking about some things you said on direct examination, right?
Sure.
So on direct examination, you told the members of the jury confidently they're not a vigilante, right?
I don't go out, fight crimes, costume or something, but sometimes I call myself one.
And so on direct examination, you told us that it was Emerson Raja who attacked AJ Maloney, not yourself, right?
I mean, I just saw that person jump and run back into the club. I don't know for sure who that was.
Mr. Mothersbaugh, that's not what you told us when we deposed you a couple of weeks ago, is it?
What do you mean?
And so when we deposed you a few weeks ago, you told us that you were vigilante, didn't you?
Well, that's what I call myself sometimes, when I'm writing under that alias, yeah.
So not only did you tell us that you're a vigilante, you told us that you were the one who incapacitated AJ Maloney. Isn't that true?
I was the person that did the final blow before he fell down. I just pushed them off of each other. I stopped the fight, but I'm not the person who beat him up.
No, Mr. Motherball, you're told us that you're the person who stepped in, attacked AJ Maloney, and who incapacitated him, true?
No, I didn't attack AJ Maloney. I was the person who incapacitated him. Yes, I pushed him off, but I didn't beat him up.
So you said that you were there to stop AJ Maloney, true?
I was there to stop the fight. That's right.
Sir, I'm not talking about the fight, I'm talking about AJ Maloney. In your deposition, you told us that you were there trying to stop AJ Maloney, true?
I stopped him from throwing an extra few punches. Yeah, that's right.
That is your testimony there, sir?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, at this point, I'm now retrieving this witness's deposition. Sir, do you have your deposition in that binder right there?
I can flip to it.
Sir, do you mind flipping to lines 65 and 66?
Absolutely.
Tell me when you're there, sir.
It was 55.
65, 66.
Thank you very much.
Question. So you admit that you beat AJ Maloney into a coma. 66, answer. I admit that I used force. It was the minimum force necessary to stop AJ Maloney. I never intended for AJ to end up like that. But I didn't walk into that alley to start a fight. I went in to end it. That's what you say, right, sir?
That's exactly right. I mean, you asked me about AJ, and the fight kept going. I was answering the question about AJ. I used as little force as I could to stop him from continuing that fight. I just pushed them off each other, that's exactly what.
So, sir, you admit that you were the person who put AJ Maloney into that home, right?
No,
Objection, improper opinion.
Your Honor, I don't believe that I'm eliciting any improper opinion. I'm asking if this witness was the person who put AJ Maloney in that home. It's certainly within their purview to answer that question.
Response.
Go ahead.
The witnesses testified there was a fight ongoing before he showed up. He's not a doctor. He can't say if his push was the one that sent somebody into a coma. We just heard from two doctors. That's not this witness' story.
A response, Your Honor?
go ahead.
Your Honor, I believe that this witness is able to testify to what he saw. Your Honor, I think it's rational for this witness to tell us if he was the person who put AJ Maloney into the coma, because he was the one who was there that.
Response, please.
Yes.
You could push someone into the floor, you can't push someone into a coma. That's a medical conclusion. Whether or not that coma was the result of that final push, that's not something that this witness is not an expert.
Okay, I'm gonna sustain the objection. I think the opposing counsel points. This witness is testifying to ghosts. So they pushed him, they fell down, watched him, he fell down. That's why they were talking about what actually caused him to slip into a coma. Take for the second. So it's the same thing.
Yes, sir. I wasn't sure if there was any answer.
If there wasn't the answer.
Sir, I want to clarify the members for the members of the jury. Well, when we deposed you, you didn't tell us anything about another attacker, did you?
No, you didn't ask me about anybody else, just asked me about AJ.
Sir, I want to clarify a couple more things for the members of the jury.
Sure.
Because on direct examination, you told us that you don't go around town fighting crime, true?
Not dressed up in spandex, yeah, that's right.
Sir, that's not what you told us when we deposed you either. You told us that you do go around town fighting crime, right?
I like to think I fight crime in my own life.
Sir, I want to walk through your time as the servant, all right?
Sure.
Sir, like you said on the right, you fight crime in your own way.
Yeah, as an informant, that's right.
In your eyes, you deliver justice.
Try to.
Sir, that doesn't just involve tips to the police, it involves physical confrontation, right?
No,
Sir, is it your testimony that your job as the servant does not include physical confrontation?
I don't go around beating people up. Yeah, that's right.
Sir, do you mind just living with me?
Sure. What line?
It's gonna be line.
I think I know what you're getting at. Well, for you.
Sir, it's gonna be line 170. Or rather, apologies, 164. Sir, question, is that when you beat up that cop back in April?
Objection,
2024?
improper character. Maybe.
Can you clarify? Yeah.
Yes, Your Honor, we believe it's not a questioning going into an incident that happened completely separate from this case. It's going to show that if Mr. Motherflaw may have acted violently in the past, and act violently in this case, that's horrible character.
Response, Your Honor. Your Honor, we're not establishing that because he acted in a particular way in the past, he's going to act that way again now. We're asking him if he ever uses violence, and he said no. At this point, we're using this for impeachment purposes.
Okay, do you have a response to that?
Yes, Your Honor, the witness testified he doesn't go around beating people up. The response was to bring up this line from something that happened years ago in independent manner. Using this to show that he's a violent person, that he typically acts in accordance with this incident, that's not permissible under 404.
Brief response, Your Honor.
Please.
Your Honor, the question was, have you ever gotten into physical altercations in your job as the servant? At this time, we're not using this for propensity evidence. We're not trying to show that because he acted in a particular way in the past, he acted that way again now. Instead, what we're doing is we're showing that in the past, he did act in a particular way. He exhibited violence.
Response, please.
Yes, or not.
If they're only showing it to show that he acted in a particular way in the past, it's not relevant unless they connect it to this case. We believe they're using it to show he acted this way in the past. So you can do something similar in this case, that's horrible.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor. Once again, we're not using this for propensity purposes. We're simply showing that he does get into physical altercations in his job as the servant.
Well, okay, so I am looking at the answer to that question, it specifically said that was heavy mother fault, not so, is that really contradicting the testimony?
Your Honor, if you go a few lines down, 167, it says, first of all, Martin Petty mother's law and the servant, it says, yes, but I keep the identity separate.
I'm gonna sustain the objection.
Yeah. And so I want to talk a little bit about your history. You have extensive training with martial arts, right?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I took karate like all my older brothers.
And so in your own words, you have English. So,
I had older brothers, so, yeah.
sir, you told us when we deposed you that you're trying to get those under control, right?
Yeah, something I'm working on as I get older.
That can be difficult, yeah.
Can't be, that's why you put the one.
And so the night of July 20th, you told us that you were in drunk.
I was upset, yeah.
And so, sir, I want to move on to your encounter with AJ Gauntlet. So, sir, it told us that you only ever learned about AJ after the incident on July 20th, right?
Yeah, I learned more about it.
And sir, isn't it true that you were keeping tabs on AJ before July 20th?
Yeah, I had heard of AJ before, that's right.
And sir, no, you didn't just hear about AJ, you were keeping tabs on AJ, right? You were watching.
As part of my investigation, I was looking into the club, involved some of the employees too, but I learned more about it afterwards.
Yes, sir, you were stalking.
No, I wasn't stalking.
You were taking pictures of him for 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, I'm a journalist, doing an investigation.
Yes, sir, you know you worked closely with the club owner, didn't you?
That's right, sir.
I thought he was a part of the drug operation out of the club.
Yes,
So on the night of the incident, you knocked him unconscious.
no,
So you went into that alley and you started throwing punches, didn't you?
no. I pushed them off of each other.
Yes, sir, you didn't stop and talk to anybody, find out what was happening.
Sir, I didn't have time to. I mean, they would hit that bouncer with that thing, and I had to jump in there and do something. I didn't have time to talk.
So sir, that's the answer to my question. You didn't talk to anybody while you were there. You just started pushing punches, right?
That's right, sir. I had to jump into action.
So that night you were fighting for control over your anger, weren't you?
I was upset about the things that had been going on at the club. That was something separate.
Thank you, sir. No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
No redirect, just ask that Mr. Mothersbaugh can step down, and at this time, if there's no more witnesses, we'll.
No closing.
No close.
Yes,
So just fill out the ballots or the scoring sheets.